Jaya Jaya Sri Guru Prema Kalpataru Adabhuta Jako Paraka Adabhuta Jako Paraka Hiya Agyan Timira Boragyan Suchandra Kirane Koruna Suchandra Kirane Koruna Iha Jagadananda Ajachita Moheno Patita Herijo Pahon Jachi Deolo Harina Jachi Deolo Harina Jaya Jaya Sri Guru Prema Kalpataru Adabhuta Jako Paraka Adabhuta Jako Paraka Duramati Agati Satataya Satamati Nahi Sukriti Lavalesh Duramati Agati Satata Asatamati Nahi Sukriti Lavalesh Sri Vrindavana Jugala Bhajana Dhana Mohe Korolo Upadesh Mohe Korolo Upadesh Jaya Jaya Sri Guru Prema Kalpataru Adabhuta Jako Parakash Niramala Gaura Prema Rasa Sinchane Niramala Gaura Prema Rasa Sinchane Purala Sabha Moneras Purala Sabha Moneras So Charanam Buje Rati Nahi Ho Alone So Charanam Buje Rati Nahi Ho Alone Arota Vaishnavadas Roto Vaishnavadas Jaya Jaya Sri Guru Prema Kalpataru Adabhuta Jako Paraka Adabhuta Jako Paraka Adabhuta Jako Paraka Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Jai 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 Jasodanandana Sachi Suta Gaurachandra Jai Jai Rohini Nandana Balarama Nityananda Jai Jai Mahavishnu Ravata Shri Advaita Chandra Jai Jai Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Kandavasi Narahari Murari Mukunda Jai Jai Swarup Rupa Sanatana Rai Ramananda Jai Jai Uriya Gauriya Joto Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Hoyace Nar Hobe Jota Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Tomra Sabai Mili Koro Doya Ami Ati Manda Jeno Akul Prane Gaite Pari Anitai Gauranga Gajeno Anitai Gauranga Janme Janme Anitai Gauranga Akul Prane Anitai Gauranga Neche Neche Anitai Gauranga Bahutuli Anitai Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Nitai 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 Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga. नाम श्रेष्ठं मनुमपि शचीपुत्रं अत्र स्वरूपम् रूपं तस्याग्रजम् उरुपुरीं मातुरीं गोष्ठवाटिम् राधा कुन्दम गिरिवरम् अहो राधिका माधवाशान् प्राप्तो यस्य प्रथितकृपया श्रीगुरुं तं नतोऽस्मि निन्दान्तं पुलकोत्करेण विकसत् निपप्रसूनच्छविम् प्रोद्वीकृत्य भुजद्वयं हरिहरीत्युच्चैर्वदन्तं मुहुः नृत्यन्तं गलदश्रुनिर्जरचयैः सिञ्चन्तमुर्वीतलम् गायन्तं निजपार्षदैः परिवृतम् तं गौरमेव स्तुमः यस्य ब्रह्मेति संज्ञां क्वचिदपि निगमे याति चिन्मात्रसत्ता प्यांशो यस्यांशकैस्वैः विभवति वशयन् एव मायां पुमांश्च एकं यस्यैव रूपं विभवति विलसति परमाव्योम्नि नारायणाख्यं स श्रीकृष्णो विधत्तां स्वयमिह भगवान् प्रेम तत्पादभाजाम् घोरश्यामरुचो जलाभिरमलैः अक्ष्णोर्विलासोत्सवैः नृत्यन्तीभिरशेषमादनकला वैदग्ध्यदिग्धात्मभिः अन्योन्यप्रियता सुधा परिमल स्तोमोन्मदाभिः सदा राधा माधव माधुरीभिरभितश्चित्तं ममाक्राम्यताम् गुरुशास्त्रं श्रद्धा रुचिरनुगति सिद्धिरिति मे यदेतत् तत्सर्वं चरणकमलं यास्यति ययो कृपामाध्वीकेन स्नपितनयनां भोजयुगलौ सदा राधा कृष्णौ अशरणगतितो मम गतिः आलिभिः परिपालितः प्रबलितः सानन्दमालोकितः प्रत्याशं सुमनः फलोदयविधौ सामोदमामोदितः वृन्दारण्यभुवि प्रकाशमधुर सर्वातिशायी श्रिया राधा माधवयोः प्रमोदयतु माम् उल्ललासकल्पद्रुमः जयति जयति नामानन्दरूपं मुरारे विरमित निज धर्म ध्यान पूजादि यत्न Katamapi sakridatam muktidang praninang yat paramam amritamekam jivanang bhushanang me. Paramam amritamekam jivanang bhushanang me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're going on with our study here of the Priti Sandarbha. So now at this point, we are just establishing that Priti is superior to Mukti, and that is Mukti as it's been defined in a general way. So Priti is a kind of Mukti. So it depends, we have 4 Purusharthas, and sometimes we talk about 5 Purusharthas, right? And say that Prema is the 5th Purushartha. But we don't see anything about 5 Purusharthas in the regular scriptural texts. There we only see 4 Purusharthas. So because there's only 4 Purusharthas in the scriptures, therefore Priti has to be subsumed to Mukti. So Priti is a kind of Mukti, but it's more than just Mukti. And that is stated all over the place. So when it says disregard for Mukti, so Mukti is a personal gain, something it's a Purushartha. It's something that one strives to gain for oneself. So it says that one has a disregard for Mukti whenever one has Priti. So if one has Priti, then other kinds of liberation are considered to be inadequate, not serving the purpose for which the soul was intended. So I was just saying in the other class, Natevi dukh swartha gatim hi Vishnu. The goal, the real swartha, the real self, the real purpose, we have swartha as jivas, as atmas, we naturally act in the interest of the self. So we all have the swartha, our own personal benefit, always in mind. We have our own goals. Nobody acts without some purpose, without some goal in mind. So therefore, even God creates the universe with some goal in mind. It's not that we should think that this universe has no purpose. So some people think like that. God created the universe and then he abandoned it and let it just, go on as, it was left to its own devices, sort of thing. But that couldn't possibly be the case. Everything is a part of God's plan. And so therefore, when God creates the world, he has some purpose for it. So the purpose, these are what we're seeing here in the Bhagavad Sandarbha and the Srimad Bhagavatam in general, is showing us the purpose of the universe. What is the purpose? What is God's purpose? So the purpose, the prayojanam, is bhakti or priti, love for God. That's the goal. So you may wonder how love for God can be the result when this world is so full of suffering. But the precise cause for the suffering is the fact that our natural state of loving God has been lost to us. There are some people who say, how can God, if God is so great, then why does he demand love from love and praise? Worse than love is just the praise, and then the fealty, and the service. What does God need of all these things? God doesn't need our service. That's true. God doesn't need our love. That's also true to a degree, because God has created, God knows that without need, without necessity, there can be no fulfillment of necessity. And without fulfillment of necessity, without fulfilling an absence, there can be no happiness. Right? Happiness is the realization of a particular goal, of a particular end. So if the end is attaining Krishna, sakshatkara, right? Tattva sakshatkara, that was defined as the goal. So tattva sakshatkara was only possible by way of priti. So therefore priti was considered to be the real goal rather than just tattva sakshatkara by itself. Because of course tattva sakshatkara arises naturally, spontaneously from one's love for Krishna. And if one loves Krishna, then one is satisfied with that love alone. And whatever else might be there, sakshatkara or other kinds of attainments, they're all irrelevant. So that means that sakshatkara itself is not the parama purushartha. So that's why mukti itself is not the parama purushartha. Salokya, sarsti, samipya, sarupya, sayujya. All these kinds of mukti could not possibly be the ultimate goal because they're not expressed in terms of priti. If they're understood in terms of priti, then they cease to be mukti in their own right and become priti, and they're just simply seen as being manifestations, or let's say the priti along with its secondary effects. So if you have priti, then naturally being near to Krishna is desirable so that one can serve, so that one can see him, so that one can hear him, so that one can taste him, so that one can relish him. Without that proximity, without that salokya, without being close to Krishna in the same world, without having sarupya, without having a suitable form by which one can serve and please Krishna, by which one can, experience Krishna. You can't experience Krishna with the material body per se. One has to experience Krishna with the senses of a spiritual body. So this is why mukti is secondary to priti. Samipya is, we will accept, but only if there is scope for the exercise of priti. So vinamat sevanam jana, so that sevanam means the external manifestation of priti. So you have these things, these terms that come from the Rasa Shastra: anubhava, vibhava, vyabhichari bhava, satvika bhava, sthayi bhava. So these 5 kinds of bhavas are talked about when it's with relationship to rasa. So these are also sometimes called the causes and the effects, karana. The vibhavas are called the karanas, and the anubhavas are called the karya. So the karya means the effects. So that's what we're talking about here, the effects. So the effects of priti, all these other things are all effects of priti. So an anubhava, that is the effect of priti. So the different kinds of actions one engages, that a devotee engages in. So for a sadhaka bhakta, kirtan and hearing and all these things, these are all what you call sadhanas. They're practices that lead to the goal of Priti. But once one has attained Priti, then these same activities, they appear as the effects of Priti. Right? So when you love Krishna, then just naturally you want to talk about him, you know? So madchita, madgata prana, bodhayantah parasparam, kathayantas chamam nityam, tushanti cha ramanti cha. So those are the effects. When one has the knowledge, right? So in that Gita passage there, it starts with it, you know, that aham sarvasya prabhava mattak sarvang pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So the result of knowing who Krishna is, of understanding who Krishna is, even if it's simply a mental procedure, by logic you have come to the conclusion that there must be a creator, that there must be a ground of being that supports this entire universe, that pervades this universe. So that entity, which we call God, even if you only know it through a logical process, there's some people who don't follow that logical process through. They say that this universe is just simply a self-created or is eternal creation, and there's no need to postulate any creator being or any universal intelligence that puts the world into the state of possibility, makes the world possible. But if you have that conclusion, if you come to the conclusion that there must be a God, that seems to be the logical conclusion of seeing this universe and of being a part of this universe and being conscious of this universe and being involved in the search for happiness within this universe and believing that happiness is a possibility. Why would happiness be a possibility if there wasn't some God to make it possible? Right? If there were no God, how would we be able to even conceive of the possibility of there being happiness? So Satchidananda, these are the innate characteristics of Brahma: existence, consciousness, and joy. So where we see consciousness, therefore we have to assume the presence of God. And where we see joy, we have to assume the presence of God. And where we see existence, we have to assume the presence of God. So since existence, consciousness, and bliss are all a part of our own natural makeup, because we naturally gravitate towards existence, consciousness, and bliss, therefore these things must also be present in the Supreme Being, in the Supreme Tattva. And then through sadhana, by following up, one gets the realization. And when one gets the realization, and does one stop? Does one sit down and simply be happy with the conclusion? No, one goes on. One goes on serving and glorifying God. So disregard for mukti was shown by Prahlada to the Daitya children through the glorification of Bhagavan's qualities. Tushte chatatra kima labhyam ananta adye kim tair guna vyatikarad iha ye swasidhaha dharmadayah kimagunena chakankshitena sarang jusham charanayor upagayatam naha. So tushte chatatra kim alabhyam ananta adye. So ananta adye tushte. If God, the unlimited God, is satisfied with us, then what is left to be attained? So if Krishna is pleased with us, If the Paramatma is pleased with the Atma, if the relationship between the Atma and Paramatma is established, then what is left to be attained? In other words, rhetorical question, nothing. Kim tair guna vyatikarat iha ye swasiddha. So guna vyatikarat, from the transformation of the qualities of material nature, iha ye swasiddha, those things that come about of their own accord, those achievements that are attained of their own accord, what is the need of them? Kim taih. So what's the need of those, of the accomplishments that can come about through the natural workings of material nature? So sometimes we go up and sometimes we come down. And sometimes we have success and sometimes we have failure. That's the nature of the material world, going up and down, up and down, up and down, happiness and distress, and so on. So he says, so that what do we need of the results of our actions? Because those are going to come anyway. If you've done pious acts in the past, or if you've done sinful acts in the past, in previous lifetimes or in this lifetime, you're going to get the results of those activities in the form of happiness and distress. So happiness and distress are coming to us not necessarily from the immediate actions that we're engaged in, but from the accumulated actions of the past. You're subject to conditions, and those conditions are both external and they're also internal. They're accompanying you in the form of your prarabdha karma and in the form of your other karmas. So you can't get away from them, but you can say, what's the use of them? If you're attached to them, if you're looking for the perfections of this world that are that come as a result of the transformations of material nature, right? Sometimes rajas is prominent, sometimes tamas is prominent, sometimes sattva is prominent. So according to if sattva guna is prominent, then we feel happiness. If rajoguna is prominent, we feel the need to do something. And if we're in the tamogun, then we feel distress. So according to the situation of the gunas, we're either feeling happiness or distress. Rajoguna is also distress, feeling the need for something, feeling the absence of something, feeling the need to make an effort in order to get something. That's also a kind of misery. That's also a kind of suffering. So, if Krishna is pleased, then there's no problem. But what do we need for all the things that for whatever you can gain in this material world? Because those things are coming and going. And, Brahma bhuvana lokat punaravartino Arjuna. These things are coming again and again. So dharmadaya kim agunena cha kankshitena. So dharmadaya kim agunena cha kankshitena saram jusham. Something missing here. I don't see the translation of dharmadaya. Anyway, so agunena, what is the point of desiring things? For us, because we have grabbed a hold of the essence. Oh, I see here. Swasiddha is going with dharmadaya. I'm sorry. So I had to say, so kim tair guna vyatikarad iha ye swasiddha dharmadaya. So dharmadaya, they're achieved in this world according to the gunas. So what is the point of being free from the gunas? So agunam here means mukti. So what is the point of desiring even mukti? Because we have grabbed a hold of the essence, which is Krishna's lotus feet, and we are engaged in glorifying them, in singing the glories of Krishna's lotus feet. So what remains to be achieved when the unlimited primeval Bhagavan is satisfied? What need do we have from the results of piety, which are available in this world of their own accord through the transformation of the gunas of nature? Indeed, what is the use of desiring even freedom from the gunas? To us, what is the use to us of desiring even freedom from the gunas? For we are hooked to the essence of Bhagavan's feet and are engaged in singing their glories. What is the use of desiring even freedom from the gunas? Agunena, chakankshitena saram jusham charanayor upagayatam naha. So jusham here is translated as hooked. So it's hooked to the essence of Bhagavan's feet. Charanayor saram jusham upagayatam cha. We are engaged in singing their glories. So agunena mokshena. So here the word agunena is translated as mokshena, freedom from the gunas. Sarang jusham an madhurya swadinam satam. So what is the meaning of saram jusham here, which was translated as hooked to the essence? Refers to the saintly people who relish the beauty and sweetness of Bhagavan. So we who are hooked to the essence. So I think I'd rather have to see this as sarang jusham rather than this here. That's the way we've been doing it. So you'll excuse me, but I spend a little bit of a time here because I have to make sure that this edition is free of mistakes. Sri Prahlado Daitya Balakan. So this is Prahlad speaking to the young Asura boys. Prahlada's questions are rhetorical. The answers to all of them are in the negative. Bhagavan is here called unlimited, ananta. All other goals, such as heaven, are limited. They come to an end. Then one has to work hard to attain them all again. But once Ananta is pleased, then one attains unending happiness. Moreover, this happiness is spiritual. Material happiness is not only limited, but also does not give full satisfaction. It is always mixed with its opposite, misery. Tushte chatatra kimalabhyamananta adye. So the original infinite being, if he is satisfied, then what is left to be obtained? Nothing is left. So somehow or another we have to find the trick of making God happy. It's not that hard, actually. As soon as we turn our attention to Krishna, then he immediately becomes happy. So even if you're chanting, for instance, chanting the holy name, if your mind is not turned towards Krishna, then you'll not find happiness even in chanting. But if you chant attentively and you fix your mind on Ananta, the unlimited Lord, then what's left to be attained? It's all a question of fixing the mind on that which is by nature eternal, conscious, and blissful, something that can't be found anywhere in this world, can only be found in transcendence. So we have to understand this process of touching transcendence with our minds and with our senses, but especially with the mind. So that's the trick, how to make God happy. So The Shastras are full of things how to make God happy. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktyuparitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. So Krishna says, I'm pleased if someone gives me with devotion fruit, flower, water. I accept it. I'm happy, I'm pleased. So Krishna and the devotees are pleased. Madchita madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanticha ramanticha. So this is how the devotees find happiness and satisfaction. So the satisfaction comes by engaging in activities that are pleasing to Krishna. So those people are asking, why does God want those things? It's not like that. It seems to say they seem to think God is somehow needy, and why I have all these insignificant atomic conscious beings that I can push around, and they think they see someone like Stalin or Mao, and they think that God must be like that. What is this? What is this disease of desiring to be loved, and of desiring to be honored, and of desiring to be praised, and of desiring to be served? So all these characteristics are attributed to God. But actually, that's a mistaken understanding. All those things are manifestations of love. And we all are appreciative of others' loving acts. If someone gives a gift, dadati, pratigrahnati, guhyam akyati prichati, bhunkte bhojayate chaiva, shadvinam priti lakshanam. This is 6 characteristics of loving behavior. So those are applicable to human society. We can see that that is an aspect of God's nature, the Brahma aspect or the Paramatma aspect. Even the Bhagavan aspect is indifferent to our sufferings. But that doesn't mean that he is not interested in our love. And indeed, we can see from our own nature that our own desire to be loved and our own desire to find fulfillment in love, that this is not an unnatural or a psychologically defective state of being. So Anuccheda 27. The effects of Priti diminish Mukti, once again. So Guna Sravana Dwaraha. All right, so not just simply by hearing Krishna's qualities in this verse here, and this is Prithu in the 4th canto. So he's also saying that just by hearing Krishna's qualities, one becomes indifferent to Mukti. What to speak of actually attaining direct association or direct vision of God. So this was in the case when Bhagavan was offering him some boon. That's right. Prithu was performing sacrifices, and Vishnu came and appeared to him in the sacrifice and offered him benedictions. And how did Prithu answer him? Varan vibho tvad varadeshwarad buddha katang vrinite guna vikriyatmanam ye narakanam api santi dehinam tan isha kaivalyapate vrinena cha. So this is also following on from what we saw in the previous verse, right? That these things are available. Dharmadeha guna vyatikarat. So guna vyatikarat iha yesva siddha dharmadeha. So what's the use of them? Kim taich. So they're attainable in other ways. They don't actually require a kind of direct attempt to attain them. They come through the vagaries of the material nature itself. So even if you just sit here in this life or the next, you'll rise to the position of a king and fall to the position of a pauper. And again you rise and fall in that way. So Varan Vibho Twad Varadeshwarad Buddha Katang Vrinite. So how would an intelligent person ask for any benediction from you, any of these material kinds of benedictions? Guna Vikriyatmanam Narakanam Dehinam. So you are the Kaivalya Pati, you are the master of liberation. So why should I ask for these things which can be attained even in the hellish worlds? O all-pervading master, why should an intelligent person ask you, the master the master giver of boons, for benedictions that are available even to materialistic people absorbed in sense pleasures? O Lord, master of Kaivalya, master of liberation, I will never ask for boons that are available even to the residents of hell. So then the next verse, Nakamaye nath tadapyaham kvachit nayatra yushmat charanam bujasavaha mahattamanta hridayan mukachyuto vidhatsva karna yutame same varaha. So he says, O Lord, I do not desire, nakamaye natha tat, that, api aham kvachit, so I never ask for that, na yatra yushmat charanam bujasavaha, where the nectar juice of your lotus feet is not available. So I only want the dust of your lotus feet. I only want the nectar of your lotus feet. Nothing else is interesting for me. The pleasures that are available to the materialistic person, in one way, form or another, they're available from the highest to the lowest part of this world. Even the hogs are enjoying the stool, right? So for them, it tastes good. So it's not a punishment for the hog to be given a big pile of stool to eat. Though a human being might find that difficult, because each species of life has its own likes and dislikes and its own pleasures and pains. So therefore, why should I ask for something which is only going to come and go, which is temporary, and which is also mixed with suffering? So he says that already he's fixed. He doesn't want anything that doesn't include Krishna in some way. So he says, Mahattamanta Hridayatmuko, so Mahattama, the greatest souls, from their hearts, the glories of the Lord come to their mouth and then fall from their mouths. So to be able to hear or to be able to understand or to be able to taste this katha, you please give me thousands of ears. So the idea that one wants to be able to multiply one's sensual or sensory capacities in order to more fully be able to relish the Lord's qualities, that is a characteristic of the devotee. Not that he becomes satisfied, but he remains unsatisfied. Natu navayam tu vitripyama uttama shloka vartaya. So we don't ever become happy from hearing Harikatha. We want to just hear more and more. It's like the Sanninipata, when one has the when one has cholera, one of the characteristics of cholera is an overpowering thirst. But the overpowering thirst, if you give water to that person, it simply makes it worse. Tragic suffering of cholera disease. One is vomiting, and one has diarrhea, a terrible lack of control over the body, fever, and one is dying of thirst, but one can't give it, one can't drink water. So Sanatana Goswami, he says that I am like the person with cholera who wants to taste more and more and more your qualities, your gunas, your leelas, your form, all these things. I just simply want to keep on fixing my mind on them and keep on deriving pleasure from them. But I can't do it because that my misfortune is like the doctor. Because what happens is that when you have cholera, the doctor will forbid you to drink water. So here, this durdaiva, this misfortune, is like the doctor who comes and says, don't drink, don't drink. You can't drink. You cannot enjoy. You cannot relish Krishna's qualities in the way that you want. So what the devotee wants, he says here, Prithu Maharaj is saying, Vidhatsva karnayutam eva mevara. The only thing that I ask from you is that you should give me thousands of ears, so that I can fully relish the speeches, the things, the way, the words that come out of the mouths of the great saints, but which are coming out of their hearts. Right? It's the realization from their heart that we want. So it's the beautiful connection here that Krishna has created within this world, that through the devotees, through the blissful devotees, whose hearts are filled with consciousness of Krishna's name, form, pastimes, and attributes, so that, and just like with Shukadev, when we see in the early verses of the Bhagavatam, it says, Shuka Mukhad Amrita Drava Sangyutam, that the devotees make it more sweet, they make it more attractive, they make it more enjoyable, because it's filled with the bliss of their own realization. That's why the words Anta Hridayat are spoken here. So I do not hanker even for that state in which there is no possibility of, I do not hanker for that state in which there is no possibility of enjoying the nectar of your lotus feet flowing from the core of the heart of great devotees through their mouth. So the boon I ask is that you please grant me 10,000 years to do so. What? So somehow or another, ears became years. That's, I don't know where that came from. Even for that, tadapi means even liberation. All right, so here, right, so tadapyaham, so nakamaye natha tadapi. So why the api here? Right? I do not desire even for that. So it means liberation, because I do not desire even for that liberation, because there is no possibility of relishing the taste of your name, form, attributes, pastimes, qualities, all those things. So that was the word kaivalya that came, because he called him Kaivalya Pati. So Vishnu appeared in the Yajna arena of King Prithu after being pleased with the latter's devotion. And good character. He asked the king to take a boon from him. Prithu spoke these verses in response to that offer. He did not desire any boon, not even that of mukti. The word mukti is not directly stated in the verse, but is understood from the words, that state in which there is no possibility of enjoying the nectar of your lotus feet. Because in mukti, the intention is not service to Bhagavan, but freedom from one's own suffering. This is the point that's being repeated over and over again. The state of Priti, as will be shown in this Sandarbha, is the hankering for the engagement of all the senses in Bhagavan's service. The state of Priti, as will be shown in this Sandarbha, is the hankering for engagement of all the senses in Bhagavan's service. The latter verse of Prithu's prayer has inspired numerous verses in the same spirit throughout the Vaishnava tradition. Rupa Goswami's famous glorification of Krishna's holy name, for example, Tunde tandavini rating vitanute tundavali labdhaye karna krora karambini. Karna krora katambini gatayate karnarbudebhya spriham Cheta prangana sangini vijayate sarvendriyanam kritim no jane janita kiyadbiramritai krishneti varna dvai tunde tandavini rating vitanute Tundavali labdhaye karna kroda karambini gatayate karnar budebhyak spriham cheta prangana sangini vijayate sarvendriyanam kritim no jane janita ki adbiramritai Krishneti Varna Dvai. So a couple of mistakes here in the Sanskrit. All these E's are supposed to be long. Okay. And here too. All right. So I do not know out of how much nectar. I do not know how much nectar. I do not know how much nectar has gone into the making of the two syllables of Krishna's name. Dancing madly on my tongue, they awaken in me the desire to possess many mouths. As they sprout in my ears, they give me the hope that I may one day have millions of ears. And as they enter into the garden of my heart, they overcome the activities of every one of my senses and leave me inert. Thus, we have this strange state of liberation, not being freedom from desire for sense activity or attachment, but an obsessive desire to experience Bhagavan through the senses and affects, a desire that can never be fully satisfied. Thus, there are many statements by devotees stating, who say that they are never satisfied with their capacity to chant or hear Bhagavan's names or glories adequately. In the Gita, Arjuna asks to hear Krishna's glories by saying, Bhuya kataya triptirhi srinvato nasti me mritam. Tell me more of this ambrosia, for I'm never satisfied hearing you speak. Or the sages led by Shaunaka, who said to Suta at the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, Vayang tu navitripyama uttama shloka vikrame yat shrinvatam rasagyanam swadu swadu pade pade. We are never satiated with hearing the heroic deeds of Bhagavan, who is praised in beautiful verses. For at every step, connoisseurs of poetic relish, rasa, enjoy them more and more. Whether that's what's meant here. So liberation, according to the Vaishnavas, appears to contradict some of the principles that are characteristic of liberation, such as freedom from desire and complete satisfaction. Whoops, and look at this, is not finished. So here there's something more that I was thinking here. All right, something else is there, but I don't know what it was. So I think probably we'll cut that out. Anuccheda 28. The effects of Priti diminish Mukti. Number 9. Tadiya nija sevakata prapti kamana dwara. So here the desire to attain this service or to become a servant of, to become his personal servant. So the desire to attain personal service or personal servanthood to Krishna, by that, just by having that desire, one diminishes or one becomes indifferent to mukti. So just the desire itself makes one indifferent to mukti. Okay, so this is Bharata, King Bharata, famous verse also from the 5th canto, describing the indifference of King Bharata to the kingly life. Yo dustyajan kshiti sudha swajanatha daran prarthyang shriyam suravaraik sadayavalokam naichana nripas taduchitama mahatam adudvit sevanurakta manasam abhavopi falguhu. Yeah, so abhavopi falguhu, that's the clinching line. Abhava. So abhava means no birth, no rebirth. So abhava is another word for mukti. So abhavopi falguhu. So falguhu means waste, useless. Falgu means what does we have? Useless is what we translate here. So yo, one who, dustyajan kshiti sutta swajanartha dharan prarthyang shriyam suravarai sadayavalokam naichan. So one naichat here, so it's naichat, but with the Sunday it becomes naichat. So the king, Bharata, he did not want those things like worldly kingdom, children, relatives, family, wives, and Shriyam, the Lakshmi, the good fortune that is prayed for by even the gods who would like to simply get her merciful glance. But Naichan, he didn't want any of those things, right? The king, Nripaha. Tad uchitang mahatam madhudvit sevanurakta manasam abhavo pifalgu. And that is correct. That is proper. Because great souls, they are attached, their minds are attached to the service of the Lord, Madhudvit, the Madhusudana, the enemy of the demon Madhu. And for them, even liberation is useless, is undesired, is just a waste. Falgu, false, unreal. There's in Gaya, in the city of Gaya, you know, where Mahaprabhu got initiation from Ishwarapuri. There's a river there called the Falgu Nadi. Why is it called Falgu Nadi? Because there's no water in it. So that river, most except for in the rainy season, of course, this is the case in many places in India, but the Falgu Nadi itself is most of the year is completely dry. You can dig in it. You dig a hole in it, and some water will be found. So there is water underneath the ground. But other than that, it's just an empty riverbed, and it only fills during the rainy season for a couple of months in the year. So the king did not wish for kingdoms, sons, relatives, wealth, and wives, I'll put wives, which are all difficult to renounce. He did not, I'm going to say, he did not even desire for the goddess. Anyway, King Bharata. He did not even desire for the goddess of fortune, who, although coveted by even the chief of gods, looked upon who, although coveted by even the chief of gods, looked upon him graciously. So Sadayavalokam here is describing Shriyam, but rather than saying that that's what the gods were desiring for, it says directly here that she was already looking upon him favorably, graciously. This was befitting for him because for great devotees with their mind, boy, whose minds are devoted to the service of Vishnu, even non-birth, abhava, liberation, is useless. The relative pronoun who, yaha, refers to Bharata, the son of Rishabha. So this here needs a capital. We have a problem here. We don't have a capital letter, I don't think, for this. Oh yeah, there we have uppercase, so the son of Rishabha. So let me get that one also. All right, so let's just finish this one and we'll call it a day. So the word abhavaha, freedom from birth, in this verse means mukti. Well, that doesn't add anything. So the point was that Bharata, he renounced the kingdom because for those whose minds are devoted to the service of Vishnu, even liberation is considered useless. All right, we'll do one more. I think we have time for one more here, number 29. So we're almost at the end of this section. Anuccheda 29, the effects of Priti diminish Mukti. Number 10. So Loka Palata Matra Lakshana Tat Sevabhimana Dwara Apyaha. So even one, oh Lord, this is awful. So Indra spoke of Mukti's this sentence sucks here. I really have to Well, it just goes to show, my friends, there's a lot of work to be done. All right, let's just leave here then, and we'll look at this verse tomorrow. And I'm going to see what this sentence here is supposed to say. All right. So we're learning that all these nice verses, all these glorious verses, many of these verses are quite familiar now, because this is a theme that the devotees really like. It's a significant theme that comes up in the Bhagavatam again and again. So one thing was that we saw that the starting point for Jiva was to put Mukti and Priti together, but now he is separating the two of them and making it very clear that although Priti is a kind of Mukti, although Priti fits into the category of Mukti, that it's something special and different, and it's actually far more glorious than mere liberation. All right. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Purnam Madaha Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Sarveshang Swastir Bhavatu Sarveshang Shantir Bhavatu Sarveshang Purnam Bhavatu Sarveshang Mangalam Bhavatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Jai Jai Shyam Sundar Madana Mohan Vrindavana Chandra Jai Jai Radharaman Ras Bihari Shri Gokulananda Jai Jai Radha Kanta Radha Vinod Shri Radha Govinda Jai Jai Raseshwari Vinodini Bhanu Kula Chandra Jai Jai Lalita Vishakha Adi Jata Saki Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Rupa Manjari Adi Manjariyananga Jai Jai Purnamasi Kundalata Jaya Bira Brinda Tomra Sabaki Pakori Deo Hai Jugal Charanara Binda Deho Jugal Charanara Binda Deho Jugal Charanara Binda Deho Jugal Charanara Binda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda. Jai Jai Sri Guru Charanaravind ki Jai. Jai Jai Sri Sri Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Jai Sri 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 Sat Sandarbhantagata Sri Priti Sandarbha ki Jai. Jai Jai Sri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Jai Jai Sri Jamuna Mai ki Jai. Jai Jai Sri Harinama Sankirtan ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai. Jai Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Jai Jai Sri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunasi Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath ki Jai. Jai Jai Sri Sri Harinama Sankirtan ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol Jai Jai Sri Radhe. Jai Jai Sri Radhe. Jai Jai Sri